reading some of those questions and comments.
Sure.
There. As they come in because you're closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see my cell phone?
Yeah.
Are we live over there too? Cool. We'll just hang out. I think we'll hang out for 5 minutes. I'm unfortunately not playing any gathering music.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Gathering music is always helpful. Yeah.
Can we see who's here? Ooh, 12. Hi, everyone. Hey, folks.
Rolling in.
We're going to hang out for a little while before we get started, so make yourself cozy. Let us know where you're watching from. Tell us what coffee you drank this morning. You know what I've been drinking? Is that Kenya?
Yes.
Ooh.
You too? The darker roast?
Yeah.
I've been drinking so easy.
Nice.
Yeah.
See if you got some from class.
Yeah. Kenya's good though.
Yeah, you have to be very close.
Oh yeah, I am very.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do need to
Yeah,
be very
you have to be
close.
very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All platforms.
Yeah, the Kenya's really good. It's like all like tactile.
Yeah.
It's like all body.
I've also been enjoying the Java that you roasted up at home.
Oh.
Delicious.
Yeah. The wild.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the L again.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
pairs so well with like milk and sugar.
Not
Cozy.
for me.
Anaerobic fermentation.
Nothing.
Too pretty. It's like when I brewed coffee at my aunt's house and she only makes flavored coffee on her brewer.
Oh yeah.
I brought a bunch of
Yes.
Guatemala and was like,
All you
why
can.
does it taste like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All you can taste is
Yeah.
the flavoring.
Hazelnut.
It is like vanilla hazelnut
Yeah.
from Costco.
I do like me a
Oh,
good like
interesting.
Dunkin' Donuts, French vanilla, every now and then. Yeah.
Never tried it.
My mom
I'll
does
take
like
it. K-cup.
coffee
Yeah.
mate, sugar-free vanilla, coffee mate creamer.
Yeah.
And I stock it when she comes to town, but a little bit begrudgingly.
Oh, yeah, we would visit grandparents and they'd have like variety of flavor creamers.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, take your pick.
Like going to the holiday station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pot has been brewed for 5 hours on the hot plate.
Hi, you good?
For the great people from Virginia, Venezuela, Colombia, and Texas.
Cool.
Very nice.
All over the place.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking to 2 screens. So if you're on Instagram, hello. Thank you for being here. If you're on YouTube, also hello. Also, thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and start talking about this set of coffees. So I'm Lauren.
Hi, Bryant.
I'm Katrina.
And we are the Bell City Roasters Education and Training Team. If you've been to our campus here in Minneapolis, taking classes with us, then you've kind of seen us here before. If you've watched our YouTube videos, you've seen some of us before. What we do here at Mill City is kind of all things coffee.
Yeah.
Brian does the majority of our roasting. Katrina and I kind of like plan and help run a lot of our classes and curriculum. But we do this every week.
Yep.
We cup together every Tuesday at the very least, and then sometimes more frequently as needed. And with this brew box, we thought it'd be really fun to cup with you all and kind of share our notes in the moment. We're all going to kind of like lean in and read your comments. So I want to talk really briefly about the brew box. If you're watching the video, you don't have the brew box in your space yet, or you're thinking about picking it up. Roasters Brew Box is a sensory training tool for us. We built it and developed it over the past few years. We've launched a few iterations of it, and it's always something that's meant to teach us something about coffee through flavor. We've done blend component brew boxes where we taste each blend as a single origin, and then we taste the blend composed. We've done roast progression brew boxes. This brew box is an exploration of coffee profiles.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Bryant to share a little bit about what were the goals of these profiles.
Yeah, these profiles are really just an exploration of, looking at finish count and development for coffees and just seeing the many ways that one coffee can change just how the profile is in the cup in so many different finish temps and development times. You can really, we're going to taste, but you can really change how a coffee tastes just by manipulating a few seconds and temperature for finish time.
Yeah, we started with this really exceptional coffee, our Colombia Manos Juntas,
Yes.
which is a natural process Castillo from the Manos Juntas, which, Katrina, you learned a little bit about to write for our article for our blog, right?
Yeah. So it is a group of 8 farmers. They're all shareholders. So we have a couple of different coffees from different spaces and from different farmers.
Yeah. So this lot that we brought in was specifically exciting for us to think about profile design, because one thing that we noticed at the cupping table when we were trying to dial it in and find kind of an ideal profile was that it sort of is very multifaceted.
Yeah.
And depending on how you profile it, it can be very appealing to a different type of coffee customer. So this felt like a really good lesson for our roaster audience members, people who are sourcing coffee, profiling coffee, to start to think about bringing in one green and doing very different things with it, and making it appealing to a wide range of customers. So we've got some very different types of coffee on the table that all started as the same green.
Right.
My last reminder before we begin the cupping is, if you haven't had a chance to grab your brew box yet, if you don't have these coffees at home, but you do want to taste these with us, we have roast dates going through the end of the year. We'll have roast dates throughout this month, next month, and in December, in time to purchase for holiday gifting. But if you want to cup with us another time, our next live cupping is going to be on November 29th. So if you order your brew box on November 22nd, that'll be the last date before that ships, so you can cup with us. Or if you just order it anytime in November, I think we have another roast date in November too. Just hold on to some of that. I know that's what some of y'all did when you ordered your cupping, your brew boxes in September and early October or late September, waiting for this live cupping.
Got to make sure to get it.
Yeah. So the brew box always contains about 65 to 70 grams of each of the coffees. We felt like that was enough to do a full cupping, with a group, or brew a big old Chemex or a big old Bonavita if you just want to share it, or do several small pour overs if you want to enjoy that coffee over the course of several days. The coffee that we're tasting today was roasted by Bryant kind of end of last week, so it's had a couple days to rest. If you'll be working with coffees that's slightly more rested than that, I think that will be a fun way to kind of get some different experiences. So just like we were in class, just like we were cupping together here in the roastery, we want to hear your thoughts about these coffees. So we're not going to teach you how to cup today. If you don't know how to cup, just do what we do. Follow along with what we with what we do first. So we're going to start with dry fragrance. We're going to smell these grounds. What are you guys thumbs up into?
Just cupped roast from September class.
Cool. And I saw Meg was here. Hey, Meg. Just want to give a shout out. So we're going to do dry fragrance first. The way that we've got these lined up on the table is we have the sample roast furthest to our left, your left, and then we've got profiles 1, 2, and 3. And as we cup, we're going to talk a little bit about what the goal of each of the profiles is. We're not doing kind of correct cupping, because we know what these coffees are, and we know what we want them to taste like. If we were doing a more professional cupping for purchasing or for evaluation, we would try to kind of shuffle the deck here and not be too leading. But we're also going to share our flavor notes as we taste these. So you're going to hear these sensory calls, which is also not the best way to cup, because we're going to be influencing you.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So let's get into our dry fragrance, starting with our sample. Wow, the sample is so much stronger than the first profile.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back and forth because I have my own set.
Yeah.
Black City says hi.
Hi. Where do you guys think the highest intensity is?
Instantly, I'm feeling like the sample and profile 2. For me.
I kind of agree.
I kind of agree with that as well. Yeah.
So the sample roast, which is a short and fast roast, which we use just for evaluation. It's not really meant to develop any roast flavor, and so obviously that is smelling the most pungent.
Yeah, bright, kind of pointed.
Yeah. And profile 2, which is our third cup on the table, is also kind of feeling like that. And we know that profile 2 is also roasted pretty fast. So let's get some water on these and talk a little bit more about these individual profiles.
Everybody gets a kettle.
We all have our own?
We all have our own. And you get a kettle.
Nice.
And you get a kettle.
All right, so we're gonna start pouring and start our timers now. Gosh, it's not a race, Katrina.
Just trying to get them ready.
Yeah. And we'll also do our rinse cups.
We like to do so much learning through competition that
I do teach through competition. Cupping speed. All right, let's get in for our dry fragrance. Sorry, wet aroma. Wow,
These smell great.
it smells so like sweet.
Yeah, these
And
last two.
The sample, especially, still is just like bright red fruit.
yeah. I'm getting that like really vibrant kind of like almost like pink bubble gum.
Yeah,
Fresh berries. I get some raspberry.
like Starburst candy.
Yeah.
A little more chocolate in that first profile.
Right.
Cocoa round.
I feel like I'm like profile 2 is just like that lemon like
Yeah.
fresh juice of
Yeah.
like citrus or
I always think of lemongrass as a note because I'm just thinking of like yellow and green together, but like
Yeah.
very floral. And the last cup here is like really caramelized, like it's brown sugar.
Yeah.
Very like sweet.
yeah, kind of like the candy coated caramel
I
like
agree.
cherries or something. If you dip them in, you pull them out, and they're kind of like crispy.
I've never had those.
Yeah, they do that to like
Interesting.
dates a lot.
Classic Bryant flavor combo. Candy that I've never had before.
Anything candy.
So we know the sample roast is our standard sample profile. We apply this roast to every coffee that comes in to the roastery. It's kind of the way that we sort of test new coffees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice and static, just kind of like one setting fits all. It's our control for
Yeah.
all coffees we taste.
And I know from talking to you that profile 1, we kind of called this like slow and low.
Right.
And this is what you've sort of said in the past is a profile that you would just apply as a template to like a natural process coffee.
Right.
Why is that?
Good first start. 'Cause
Yeah.
all those sugars like
Yeah.
outside that have been dried on the seed. You don't just want to like scorch them off or burn them off, but it's kind of been like I think like an industry kind of like low and slow.
Yeah.
Treat those naturals low and slow.
So in this cup, we're trying to like highlight fruit flavors, like play up that natural flavor, like why you bought a natural is to get berries and syrupy flavors in the cup.
Right.
Katrina, what's the goal here for our profile number 2?
Our goal here was to appeal to those who enjoy high acidity, high noted specialty roasts.
Yeah. So people who are like, we call them like acid heads.
Yeah.
Right? People who really like a classic light roast, like poppy,
Right.
crisp, bright
Yeah.
face melter.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Put it on espresso and just like make your eyes water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always kind of see that for naturals as like that cordial, a little bit of like liquor.
Yeah.
But like with like a sweet backbone to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And then Bryant, what is the goal here for profile 3?
Three's an amalgam of both.
Yeah.
Kind of like taking that middle ground of like not as punchy of acidity, but not as mellow
Yeah.
of like a fruit note.
Kind of, I called it like the Goldilocks cup earlier,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get this like crisp brownness about it, but not super juicy, but not super fresh or candied. It's just kind of like it's a gentle handshake overall.
Nice. We're at 4 minutes on our timer, so we're going to go in and do our break. Nice.
Time to lean, oh, you don't want a spoon, you want a cup.
Thank you. So just now, I felt like I'm one of those people who doesn't write a lot of notes for the break. I think that like the break kind of always smells the same. And what I noticed in the break across these profiles is that they all smell like the same coffee. Like they all kind of had like a similar amount of fruit, amount of like vibrancy, but they do feel like different like iterations.
Yeah, some kind of like feel like a little bit more like crisp in the nose, like a winter day.
Yeah,
And some feel like a summer day.
those are great notes for your cupping notebook. Winter day, summer day. So even though these all have different roast times and finish temperatures, do we feel like these are all the same like level of roast?
I feel like they're kind of like in a similar ballpark, because even with some of that, you know, fast and light, you're hitting that coffee so fast that some of that inner seed, I think, is still a little lighter. And then when you kind of have low and slow and dropping at a lower temperature, but you're in there for longer, it kind of homogenizes somewhere in the middle. So I think they're kind of in a similar ballpark as far as like roast level goes, and color, if we were to do that ground reading. Yeah, but just kind of like a play on like what's going on with the almost like acidity and sweetness.
Yeah.
Via temp is like that big shift.
It would be interesting to do a color reading. I realize that we haven't done that before on these coffees. I'll do that after this.
Always a time to harvest data. Never not a time to harvest data.
Well, if you have the tools.
If you have the tools, yes. Right, fresh rinse cups.
So before we started our video today, I was kind of refreshing my memory a little bit about this varietal, right? For this offering, this is a Castillo varietal, which is a little bit of a larger cherry, right? It's a larger fruit. This is the lineage of this varietal is a hybrid, so it's been a little bit like divisive, I think, because there's been some like Robusta in its ancestry. But what that gives this coffee is incredible disease resistance, rust resistance, and it's a very high yielding plant. So, and it's high density, so you can plant a lot of them very close together, and you can get a lot of coffee from one tree, and that coffee is pretty like robust and healthy. So we're here for our Castillo varieties.
Yes, we are.
You have to move in closer to the table.
I do.
Yeah.
I have to hug this table.
Yeah.
Hug it like you're cupping. Hug every coffee.
We're going to wait until about 9 minutes have passed. If you are a person who has a cast iron mouth, you can taste earlier than that.
Red Berry Coffee would like you to name the cultivar again.
The varietal of this coffee is Castillo. So Castillo.
Yeah.
I guess that is a cultivar, isn't it? Yes.
Interchangeable.
Not interchangeable.
They're not interchangeable.
Varietal, my understanding, I'm gonna like, I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth on YouTube. Varietals are grown naturally, and cultivars are man-made.
Oh.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah. Cultivated.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's that's good.
Good reminder. All right, we're at 9 minutes. Let's do our very first, very hot pass.
Get ready.
Right away, get that like white grape, that like tropical.
Yes.
You know, this is the reason that we bought this coffee in the first place, like just based on the sample roast. So the first thing that we taste is like natural process, high quality Colombia flavors.
Yeah. And clean. Nothing, no like hints of like ferment.
Yeah.
Or like nail polishy off notes or anything.
Yeah, again, profile 1 is like just reminding you, like, I'm a natural process. I'm like round and fruity.
Get that cacao too. in
Yeah.
Mhm. I think 2 kind of like plays that down, like
It feels more like a washed.
yeah,
Yeah.
like kind of
It
like
does.
smoother, rounder, but
Yeah.
but nothing kind of like boom. fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It kind of feels like a honey process. Like it has like sort of both. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's very clean.
Yes. Three also has like great acidity. It's still very high noted, but it's not as punchy as 2.
Mhm.
And it has like other like layers of flavor like supporting it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the tropics.
Yeah.
Kind of like profile 3 is that like pina
Colada, tiny umbrella,
Yeah,
feet in the sand.
blended on ice,
Yeah.
a little bit of cream in there. And then yeah, profile 2 is kind of like that. Almost like very like Campari, caramel,
Yeah.
kind of like bitter fruits, but still very clean.
Yeah.
Quick finish.
Yeah. This kind of, it feels like I could do a similar tasting with like levels of ripeness for the same fruit, right? Where like one's
Yeah.
just right, one's a little like unripe, and one's like gone a little too like funky in like the fruit bowl. It's like it's like a last day
Yeah.
before you have to turn it into a pie.
Take it out. Yeah. Quick, throw it in the freezer.
Let's get into some of the flavor calls that we have here for our sample roast. We use that word lemongrass again, like it's very citric.
Mm-hmm.
Very syrupy as well.
Yeah.
I get that.
You can tell, like, when you taste a coffee like this, that if you were to take it, you know, slow and low, like Bryant did here in the first profile, that it's going to feel really, like, round and fruity and very, like, heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But even here on its own, I mean, for a sample roast, it's, like, very drinkable.
Yeah.
I mean, ask me again in 4 minutes when it's
Right.
cooled off. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to try. Nadir had a question about talking about development time,
Yeah.
different in these profiles.
Yeah.
So every profile, like we have the card in front of us and we'll say what they are in each cup.
Oh, I
But
don't have the other
the
graphic.
other
Yeah.
well, so for every profile of like 1, 2, and 3, all those coffees were 14 to 15% in development in each of those profiles. But the difference, of course, when you're talking about that percentage now, is profile 1 was 12 minutes, 22 seconds. So 15% of that. Profile 2 was 9.5 minutes. So that would be a much shorter time spent in development.
Yeah.
And then that profile 3, again, also 14 to 15%, kind of in that middle time. So anywhere between maybe a minute 20 to a minute 45 between the 3 cups.
That's really important to remember because like 15% of 12 and a half minutes versus 15% of 9.5 minutes is very different.
Very
you
different.
know, and we know from roasting that what happens in that development phase, that time after first crack, is super important for flavor creation. That's what we're tasting here in the cup. Is anything after dry end, really.
Right.
So I'm back on profile 1 here, slow and low. Welch's grape juice, red wine, you know, getting into that like darker red, like currant, blackberry.
Almost has that kind of like grape skin, kind of like that tannin from the wine.
Yeah.
But like maybe more like Pinot Noir.
Yeah. It's still like refreshing.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like weighty. Has a good weight to it.
Reminds me of a limeade.
How would this compare to a natural process from another part of the world? Maybe like natural Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm. I do think there's a little bit more of a substantial, like heavier weight in the cup. Not as much of those like crisp floral notes. Definitely more grounded in like that yeah, those kind of like juicy, fruity kind of notes.
Yeah.
While we can still get those from like naturals and Efi, there's just like a weightiness about it, and a roundness. I just don't feel that crispness like in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Washed.
I can see questions here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we had a question about blends. Today we're just drinking a single origin, so blending will have to wait for another day. We do have a couple blends on our website, and those tend to all be 3-bean blends.
Mm-hmm.
We usually work with 3 components: something for body, something for flavor, and something for acidity or whatever is missing.
Yeah.
All right, getting in here to profile 2, our hot and fast. Ooh, yeah. Lemon peel, that like sweet tangerine, almost like a little bit of like key lime.
Yeah.
Get some honeydew,
Oh yeah,
fresh melon.
Nice.
fresh melon. It's juicy, but like very tart. Like I made a lot of homemade lemonade this summer.
Nice.
And I made my own like electrolyte drink with like lemonade and salt, and like that saline kind of makes the body really kind of creamy and like a little heavier. It doesn't taste salty, but it feels very round on the palate, and this kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. Where
Where it's like tart but still like substantial.
right. Nadir, another question about is charge temp similar in the 3 profiles?
Oh yeah.
Low and slow, charge temp was 380 degrees on our drum temperature, or our PID for our machines. And then profile 2 and 3 were both charged at 400 degrees.
Cool.
The only difference in that 400 charge between the 2 is aggressive heat up front versus mild heat up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question, because you could actually look at these 1, 2, 3 profiles as both an exploration in finish time and temperature, but
Yeah.
also an exploration in heat application. Like if your goal was to not take anything too dark,
Right.
then like here's a roast where you kind of start with a lower charge. Here's a roast where you start with a high charge, high gas. And here's a roast where you start with high charge, medium gas. And then you kind of just naturally end up with these 3 cups.
Yeah.
Right? So it's sort of a roasting exercise as well.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to taste this last cup again. This is where like a lot of the red fruit from that dry fragrance is like coming back now. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting like strawberry, cherry.
Almost getting like a pastry, like kind of like curd.
Yeah.
Like lemon curd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Fruit punch.
Fruit punch. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what came to mind.
The acidity is still nice and like really lively. We've got pink grapefruit written on the insert here. And for me, like when I compare a note like pink grapefruit to a note like lemon peel,
Right.
like pink grapefruit is more floral, it's balanced with bitterness, and it has a little bit more complexity. Whereas like lemon peel is like just brightness. Yeah. It's like just for zest. And I taste that here. You know, when we talk about quality of flavor, we're always thinking about flavor balance.
Mhm.
And that means that we're looking for some sweetness, some acidity, some bitterness all together in the cup. And they don't have to all be present at the same level, but they have to be supporting each other. So if we have really, really high acidity, like we do in this second profile, we also need some sweetness to carry it. Otherwise, it's just too tart to
Right.
drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes for brewing as well. You know,
Yeah.
like when you're brewing these coffees, you're kind of trying to dial them in as well, just like Brian did with each of these roasts,
Yeah.
each of
Searching,
these profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
searching for balance.
And Katrina, you also created brew recipes for each of these.
Yeah. So that was a really fun
Bringing it
exploration
around.
as well.
Yeah.
We, you know, Brian and I were in discussion while he was, finishing up these profiles. And once we landed on some recipes for each of these, Brian and I went back and forth. We talked about them, and he was like, well, profile 1 should be a little more syrupy. And so that's where we went back and made adjustments. But just kind of how we're doing that for a sample roast, and we're looking to find the right profile, we're doing the same with those brews.
Yeah. So it's kind of like doubling up on the intended final product, right? So it's
Yeah.
like something is supposed to be like sweet and syrupy in the roast, but then also to brew for sweetness, you end up with like double the flavor.
Yeah.
Double the
Yeah.
fun.
Double the fun.
Do we have the roast path profiles on the webpage?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the product, the Brew Box product, the description of each of the profiles has the profiles hyperlinked, and that will take you to the roast path ID. So you can actually see charge temp, you can see fuel and air inputs, and you can see landmarks.
Cool.
Who's here? Oh, you just linked it.
Yeah, Roland
Cool.
had that question
Thank
about
you.
the profiles, so
Cool.
drop that link in there for those.
Did we get what is the capacity of your machine?
Oh,
Yeah.
We build 12 models of roaster. So we build everything from a 1 pound sample roaster all the way up to a 60 kilogram. So a lot of machines. This machine behind us that you can maybe see in the screen, that's a digital 2 kg roaster, 2K roaster.
But it looks like a little matchbox.
Yeah, you can just crush it with your hand.
Just push it off the side.
I'm going to go in for a final pass here. I was wondering if that sample would stay drinkable. You don't think so? It's kind of lost its sweetness.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that it's gotten to the point of like for a sample, like I'd still drink this sample. Yeah. This one's a little bit more toned down, and it's not a smack in the face in the morning.
It's getting a little bit of that thing that happens when coffee's underdeveloped, where it gets a little bit like of that maltiness, that like vegetal or like that cereal grain. It like is not, you feel like there's something there that hasn't been unlocked yet.
Right.
You know, and we taste a lot of coffees like this out in the world, in the specialty coffee like world of roasting, where people are a little bit nervous about going too far past first crack, or they're nervous about leaving coffee in the roaster for too long, and so they leave. I feel like they leave some stuff on the table. They don't really get it into the cup.
Yeah. Nice. That's
Cool.
great to hear.
Yeah, that 500 gram sample roaster is a workhorse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really is.
Cool.
Do you want to answer some questions from Instagram?
Bring it on.
Okay, when you say intensity, does that mean a dark roast?
So when we're talking about intensity, and I probably was talking about intensity of flavor or intensity of acidity, just talking about like base strength or volume. Think about, if music is really quiet versus music is very loud, that's what I'm talking about with intensity. It doesn't usually refer to the roast. It just refers to sort of how much of something there is. And earlier, I felt like a few of these cups had lower intensity for dry fragrance, which just meant they didn't smell very strong. And then the ones that had higher intensity had a lot of fragrance coming off of them.
Okay, 2 more questions.
Okay.
What do you think is the driver of flavor when you taste a natural and a washed coffee? Like, what are the main flavor?
What produces flavor?
The process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you guys can both speak to this too, but with natural processed coffees, the seed is left in the fruit for, days or weeks. And so that residual fruit sugar that's remaining on the bean kind of infuses and imparts a lot of that fruit flavor into the final cup. So that's what we're tasting here with the natural.
Yeah.
Whereas with the washed coffee, that's removed within hours after harvest. And so you get more clarity, more crisp flavors, and a little bit more, or just like less, substantial fruit flavor.
Right. But all that processing has to go correctly.
Perfectly.
For this magic to end up in our cups, right?
Totally.
But I mean, I think just kind of like piggybacking on that idea, it's like, that natural and that fruit really imparting flavor. And, there's so many experimental methods out there now too, where it's, experimenting with, methods from wine and like beer making, and also pitching other ingredients into fermentation for naturals that make coffees just crazy.
Yeah.
We're moving into uncharted territories again.
We
Always
are.
uncharted.
Yeah. What's one more?
Is drop temp or total roast time more influential on acidic character?
What's more influential, drop temp or total roast time?
Oh,
Bryant, over to you.
yeah. I mean, I feel like it's a harmony of both.
Yeah.
But temperature at end of roast will affect your acidity level. I mean, the higher temperature you get, the more dull acidity will be.
Mhm.
But but the time is what rounds out that acidity.
Yeah.
So like how is that going back to the lemonade?
Yeah.
The lemonade that you forgot to put a cup of sugar in, or is it that lemonade that you have extra sugar in? You know, it's kind of a play between the two. And I think as roasters, we kind of steer things to our drop temp and time spent in the roaster to what we are looking for.
Yeah.
And what our customer is looking for.
And if you have a roaster, you can easily test this at home by roasting one coffee to 400 degrees in 9 minutes and the same coffee to 400 degrees in 14 minutes. You're going to have very different cups. You could also roast one coffee for 10 minutes and drop it at 390 and roast another coffee for 10 minutes and drop it at 420, and you'll have different cups. So I don't think it's possible to differentiate and like really say that it's one or the other. I really do feel like it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have so
In more of like almost like a nail polish kind of way. So you can have fermented naturals that have more of a boozy characteristic that are still sweet and clean and nice. But then you can have naturals of over fermented can be just really kind of like sharp, almost kind of like think straight vodka or something.
Yeah. For me, over fermented is funk.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
really funky, something you kind of can't quite put your finger on, but it just sort of feels like boozy, sort of weird, almost moldy.
almost
Right.
moldy. I would agree.
Brine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Briny.
But
Like kombucha.
yeah, like I'm thinking like a pickle brine,
Yeah.
like an olive brine.
Yeah.
It's right. It's a lot.
So based on these coffees, someone asked, what will be good in espresso or what will be good in Chemex?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Isn't it subjective?
That's true.
We
Yeah.
probably would all have different votes.
Yeah.
Weren't you pulling shots with this recently?
I was pulling shots with this,
Yeah.
and I personally really enjoyed. Let me remember. It was Profile 3, just
Yeah.
because it was so rounded with
Yeah.
those deep fruit notes that it just really came through in that espresso. The acidity wasn't too high, so there was a good balance there. Yeah, I would say Profile 3.
I think that makes sense. Like Profile 1 or Profile 3 for espresso, anytime you take a coffee and you put it on the espresso bar, you sort of put a magnifying glass on it. So this coffee in Profile 2 that's already really high noted and really bright is maybe going to become too sour to enjoy.
Mhm.
I also wonder how it would pair with milk or other ingredients. Like it might not be assertive enough.
Yeah.
But I think for a brewed coffee or pour over, like that's kind of the goal of this brew box, is to show, there's a coffee for every coffee drinker
Right.
out here through
Yeah.
these profiles.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
How does development time ratio affect naturals? We talk about that a lot in class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. Of course, at the end of the day, we're also looking at the rest of the profile and how we got there, but just looking at it in a very kind of like narrow window of development percentage, I kind of think like lower percentages give you more of that kind of like fresh fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Middle percentages give you more of that kind of like fruit mixed with maybe a little bit of like chocolate or almost like candied fruit. And then going even further, like beyond that, like let's say 10, 20, and then 30% development in percentage, then you start getting a little bit more like chocolate cake and fruit. So I think that freshness just kind of starts to get, caramelized.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how I like to look at it.
And another thing we talk about in class a lot is, to roast, to roast for what you're like interested in tasting, to roast for what your customers want to taste, but also to find a roast that really makes sense for the green. And like a coffee like this isn't a coffee that we would take terribly far into development, because at a certain point, there's a limitation to how much fruit flavor we can still taste before those roast flavors start to take over. And if your goal is to roast something that tastes dark and kind of smoky, like this isn't the right green to use, simply because it's like too expensive to do that with.
Yeah.
Before we started the stream, we were talking about a really great, more affordable Kenya that Bryant had developed for a customer as a darker roast, and it's awesome. Yeah.
So tasty.
Cool. Well, we're taking our kind of final passes. Any last questions from IG?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on rate of rise, and does your roast profile system include rate of rise?
Oh.
Hmm.
So rate of rise is calculated by any roast system that reads temperature, right? Because it's just how fast you're moving. Temperature over time will give you an ROR number. Our machines are compatible with all major software, data logging softwares, including our own software, RoastPath. And RoastPath is one of those fields, one of those values that you'll see. But ROR is very dependent on your machine size, your probe size, and your probe placements. So there's no right or wrong rate of rise to be at. The right rate of rise is the one that gets you to your goals.
Well said. I don't think I can set it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't stress about it. It's just whatever you need to reach your landmarks. Yeah. Cool. Well, we are gonna clean up, because if you know anything about cupping, you know that it's mostly doing dishes.
Oh,
Yeah.
always.
So we're gonna get ready to do that. Thank you all for joining. If you're watching this recording after this, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
If you want to join us next time, we're gonna cup these coffees together, have another conversation, share our notes, share some thoughts about roasting on November 29th. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. Order your brew box before November 22nd. But this brew box will be available all throughout the end of the year. And Steve just dropped a good idea, ? About maybe doing a holiday brew box, something for the
Ooh,
Christmas season. So stay tuned for that.
I'm here for it.
As always, you can get in touch with us, millcityroasters.com. Watch more of our videos on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. We're starting to put out some great reels and TikTok content just for the youth. But even if you're not a youth, you can follow along. Cool. So thanks for being here. Happy roasting, happy coffee drinking.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Later.
Thanks for joining.